Testing. Just checking out the sound really quickly. 1 second. Cool. That's ready. This is set. That's ready. This is testing. Okay. Mic is good. We have sound. And we are alive. Okay? We are live and we are alive. Good things happened today. Good things happened today because boredom was overcome. Boredom was overcome. I do not like soda with carbonation in it, and it is sugar-free. So, not an ad. So I'm just gonna let it sit a little so the gas leaves. Now let's talk. We are talking about welcome to the red zone, where men are made or destroyed. Now, it's a bit of a dramatic gesture, but it's real. It's real. Quite frankly, the red zone is that place between the peak of ignorance moving forward into the valley of despair right before you see some sort of success. And the thing is, obviously the graph is like it goes up with a confidence and then down and then the valley and then it goes up and the confidence is well earned, and that's when you see some sort of success because that confidence is based in evidence. But I wanted to use the dominoes as a metaphor because I've always really enjoyed dominoes. When I was a kid, I was obsessed with dominoes. I even had a dominoes YouTube channel with some like 2 videos on it. That was fun. It was horrible. Little tiny dominoes that make videos. And I'll tell you, the first 5 were really easy. And then when you got past the first 5 and you're like, well, this is about to be an enormous straight line, so I have to figure out something to do here. So you did something. And here's the deal. That part was incredibly boring. That's the red zone. It's that middle part where things are boring. And today was incredibly boring. But after boredom is where you get a little bit of fun, right? So I had a task to do today, and I did it. It was boring. I had some research to do, and there was a very long video, about an hour and a half, and I watched it twice to make sure I understood it. And that was incredibly mentally painful because it wasn't anything interesting or fun. Interesting in terms of what the work it is that I'm doing, but in terms of fun, it's work. So it wasn't exactly stimulating the way memes are. It wasn't like that. It was boring. It was painfully boring. The thing is, if you cannot handle the boredom, then you're in trouble. You're definitely in trouble. I'm getting some messages. 1 second. My mom's messaging me. Okay. And if you can get past the red zone, as I like to call it, the middle dominoes. This video had several titles before I came up with this one. One of the earlier titles was The Middle Dominoes, because those are incredibly boring to set. It's the first domino or the first few, and then everything in the middle, and then the end. So you can see that as, you'll never have a set of dominoes in an interesting fashion laid in front of you unless you start with the first one. And that there's great pleasure in that. It's a great feeling. And then, of course, there is the last one, which is a comfort in finishing something that's difficult and has been tedious or strenuous. And finishing that is a great sense of achievement. And in between those two sections is the third and most important section. The middle. Of course, some could argue that the first step is the most important. And it is incredibly important because if you don't have the first step, then you don't have anything else. You have to start with the first step. And that fills you with confidence. I started something. And there's great pleasure and sense of achievement in the final domino, because it's like I started something and I finished it. And I've derived a lot of good feelings from that. And what people neglect is the most important part. And it's not the beginning, which people do argue, and the ending is fun and it's the best part, but it's not the most important part. The most important part is the center, the middle, which is the red zone, because it's so boring. It's so boring. It's the thing that nobody does, right? My personal belief is that most, and I think statistics back me up here. I haven't read the statistics, but this is just an assumption, a guess, that probably 80% of taxes are paid by the upper socioeconomic class. Majority of taxes are paid by rich people, right? And there's a lot of luck there in being rich, but at some point down the lineage, call it nepotism, connections. At some point in the lineage, a person was just a person, and they set the dominoes in place for their families to be able to enjoy that final domino. And not a lot of people have the patience or the fortitude or just the confidence, the self-confidence to be able to set up those middle dominoes. And that is, it's everything. I mean, arguably, you can remove the beginning and the end. And the red zone is the only thing of actual value out there in the world. The boring work that no one wants to do that actually has some sort of value, some sort of substance, right? The beginning is like, okay, I'm going to undertake this thing, right? If you can remove the first and second and last domino, and you'll still have a pretty sick, assembly of dominoes. And you could just be thrust into a situation without having wanting to start it. And as long as you do the middle, and if you play the infinite game, there is no end. But even if you don't get to the end, the work of the middle is so incredibly valuable, not just as a result of its product at the end, but because of the experience it gives you. Because very few people can get that middle done. Very few people can do that middle. That red zone is incredibly boring. It's incredibly difficult. It will make you doubt yourself. Purely by virtue of being such a long state, such a prolonged state, because the beginning is kind of quick. You have this bit of confidence in the beginning as you start something, and then you enter the valley of despair, and you're like, okay, it's getting a little tiresome, and then it's like, whew, this doesn't end. This doesn't end. This doesn't end. I got to keep going. Wow, maybe this won't work out. It's okay. I'll keep going. Oh man, just keep going. Just keep going. Maybe I should try something else. That's how it happens most of the time for most people. That's what it is. And it sucks. It sucks. But it is important to remember that it is the only thing of value. The middle part, the boring part. It's where value is created. Now, it's a little dramatic, but the self-belief you have and your ability to undertake in something that you believe in, because of whatever reasons, because you have a reason to believe in something, that is what makes or breaks a person. Mainly because, A, you don't become, let's call it, the person you want to be without undertaking something that you believe in. And on top of that, once you begin, if you do not finish, it is actually worse. So a lot of the times, honestly, if you don't have the faith to be able to get through the middle, psychologically speaking, you're better off not doing it at all. There's the warning. Because once you begin it, it is incredibly taxing to the will muscle. It's incredibly taxing to the will of it all. And the reason for that is once you decide to become a person that you want to be, the belief that you have in yourself, once you get lost in the red zone, crushes you. Crushes you. Which is why this is an addition to yesterday's point. Do not play the finite game. Right? Once you undertake this, once you have something you believe in, once you're going towards something, it's okay to pivot, change directions. The point is to keep playing the game and keep, break down what you want into its most core principle and follow that, not necessarily a singular career or a singular direction. You can pivot. You can pivot drastically. When I was in university, I started off doing accounting, and I did that for 2 years, and I decided to change directions, and I ended up doing film, and so here I am. I pivoted. Now, did I lose at accounting? The cynics may think so, but for me, that's not a loss. That's me deciding that that's not the direction I want to go in because I don't sense growth in that direction, so I'll pivot. I don't see myself, seeing any sort of sustainability in that direction, so let's pivot. And, something as drastic as, accounting, finance to film and TV, it's quite drastic. So, don't be afraid to pivot. Obviously, don't make rash decisions without having thought them out first and how you're going to handle the consequences, which I did. But you are allowed to pivot. It's not a loss. And you can't see it as a loss. Even if you do, I would recommend you change your mind, because that perspective of being someone who couldn't do that thing is damaging to the mind. It's corrosive. And honestly, I've never. It's kind of like a thing I'm thinking about now because of the work I'm doing now. But I've never really considered that as a loss. So it's interesting for me now to apply that and say, okay, I kind of had an idea of that anyway. So it's positive reinforcement. It's like it's like being able to put your own kind of readable psychology, psychology that you have applied without knowing, and kind of breaking it down and saying, okay, at least I got that down. It's good I did that, and it probably means that I'm on a healthy track with regards to that. Issue is when you see it as a finite game, that feeling of I believe in something, and then kind of telling your own self that I was wrong and that I can't do this, and that I got lost in the red zone is corrosive. It's a bad way to think about things. And it's entirely a matter of perspective. There are no losses. There are only things that happen. And, you're allowed to feel some sort of emotion about it. But beyond that kind of thing that it is, there's nothing more to it. If you can't handle the boredom, take a walk. Come back to it. Force yourself, pay attention, because when you really get down to it, you begin to realize that once you have something you believe in, nothing else really actually matters. So, your life may have ups and downs, but all that matters is getting through the red zone that I'm using as a metaphor here. And the red zone is, it can be anything. Whatever you decide to do, that is the difficult part of the thing in the middle. You begin something and then you realize you're bad at it because it's a new thing and there's plenty to learn. And, you have this confidence at the beginning of like, oh, yeah, I can do it. And then you have the valley of despair, which comes directly after. And it's the red zone. And you take a deep fall and it's tough. It's mentally taxing. But as long as you play the infinite game, right, you don't consider ups and downs as wins and losses, just as progress and what comes with undertaking any sort of thing in life. And quite honestly, I like the metaphor of dominoes that are used in the thumbnail, but I'm not a fan of trying to see an end in whatever you're doing. Perhaps a pivot. Nothing ever really ends. It just transforms. Is that corny? It just changes into something else. And the dominoes, they keep rolling. And that middle part is just always red. And then you start in a new direction, and maybe it's a little easy to begin with, and then there's red again. It's always red. There's nothing else. There's nothing else. The ending is death. That's the end. That's the last domino. The last domino is death. Okay? You begin life, you have the red zone, which is everything in the middle. There is a sort of puberty when it comes to any sort of thing that you undertake, right? Right? It's like puberty, right? You begin as a child and everything's just happy and everything's stimulating, and then you become a teenager, right? And then things are new, and you're beginning to see negatives, and you're criticizing your surroundings, and it's overwhelming, and then you get used to it, and perhaps you become jaded, or perhaps you have some sort of realization of greater truth. You become mature, and then you turn 40, and you're like, well, I never really knew anything at all, and I still don't. And you turn 60 and say, I don't care, right? Now, I don't personally have experience with those ages, but I've been told. You know what I mean? So, red zone, baby. Do the difficult thing. Today was tough. A lot of boredom. I did some interesting things. A little bit of research, a little bit of this, a little bit of writing, and writing in a new way. I've been practicing writing a very specific way for a specific thing. So I've been getting really good at writing one type of thing. But then I wrote the same type of thing, but in a different way. Don't want to get into too much detail. But I did a bulk of the writing today. I kind of finished it up, and just like a last little bit left, which I'm going to do after this. But it was good. I managed to do something good. I'm putting my cola bottle on the back of the phone just to cool it up a little bit because my it is about to shut off. And still the same thing with the diet. I'm keeping it relatively clean. Relatively clean. It's zero sugar, so I'm just getting the cancer chemicals. Apart from that, keeping light, keeping busy, dealing with boredom. Boredom can be fun because there's no greater feeling than figuring something out. It's like this exhilarating feeling of like I figured it out. I used this old thing and I got the answer, and it's a great feeling. It's a great feeling, but it only comes really when you can deal with boredom. It's easy to do it when you're like watching a show and maybe you guess the ending. It's like, yay, I did it. I guessed the ending. But that's because the show is fun and it's interesting. It's keeping you engaged. But the things that don't keep you engaged, if you can engage with them, the stuff you can figure out, a lot less people will be able to figure out, right? It's like you go online and you go on Reddit or things like that, and there's always people guessing like what's happening in this show, what's happening in this show. And those things always have more likes, more viewers, and more visitors, and more impressions than perhaps a research article about how AI dreams of elephants. That's a thing. And I haven't personally read it, but I know it exists. It's on the reading list. And if you just look at things like that, and if you can pay attention to that, the kind of thing that you could probably figure out by paying as much attention, let's say, that you paid on Breaking Bad to figure out what would happen at the end, or maybe Better Call Saul to see, or like, if you watched enough detective movies, like I have, to kind of have an idea of where a story might go, then, that feeling of being able to figure it out or guess is it's a good feeling, and that comes at a much higher level. It's much stronger when that feeling comes after having dealt with intense boredom, which a lot of people do not have the stomach for. And I'll be honest, I'm not trying to flex. I don't either. It's not something that's easy, so I'm not trying to brag. I'm not trying to lie either. It's not easy. Most people can't, and just the ability to get through that red zone is can be pure sheer will, Smith. And if you can get through it, it's great. And there's, it's like there's no secret, right? You can just, some people are better at it. If you're better at it, screw you, but, lucky you. If you're not that great at it, just put your head down and you got the headaches from reading too much and you're dealing with it. Great. That's the way for you. If, every 10 minutes you need to take a 20-minute break, do it. Spend 2 hours working and 4 hours taking a break until those numbers flip. And eventually you'll just get better. It's really a matter of time and attention. You can figure anything out as long as you just put the time in. My brother was telling me about this YouTuber called Prime. He was a programmer and he worked for Netflix. And as a student, perhaps I think in high school or something like that, he wasn't very good at math. I mean, always assumed that he was bad at math. And then there was like this tutoring class, and he was, I guess, doing some tutoring. And he realized that just by being in that environment and just spending time on it, he got really good at math. And so he's like, oh, if I just spend more time doing math, I'll get better at math. So he started spending double the amount of time doing more math. And eventually he went from like feeling like being not doing very well in math to being the top of his class. And that's the same principle with anything and everything. If you just spend more time in that environment, more time around if you spend more time around numbers, you'll get better at math. If you spend a lot of time around ice cream, you'll get better at knowing about ice cream. If you spend a lot of time making ice cream, you'll become really good at making ice cream. It's like that deck of card thing I spoke about like 30, 40 days ago. Like I would just hold a deck of cards in my hand all the time. And so I knew what the weight of a deck of cards was like. And so when someone tried to do a magic trick with me, and as part of the trick, he removed some of the cards, and I guess he was going to make me shuffle it and put his hands behind his back, and then add the removed cards back into the freshly shuffled deck of cards to appear to be randomized. And he handed me the deck of cards, and I'm like, this card's missing. Because I knew how it felt. I used to have a deck of cards in my hand all the time. I knew what 52 cards felt like. I could tell if there was one missing. That's how crazy it becomes, like a magic trick. If you spend enough time in something, it turns into a magic trick. And that comes after having spent enough time in the red zone. So quit your bitching, start twitching. Not twitching, pitching. Twitching, pitching thing. Start pitching. I don't know. Anyways, my phone is incredibly overheated, and I think the cold from the bottle really kept us alive in the end there. So we're gonna end it right here. Get through the red zone, man. You can do it. You definitely can. If you think you can, if you disagree, you're an idiot, and I can prove you wrong. And drop a comment and tell me exactly why you're an idiot. Because you can do it. Am I sending you mixed messages? Do you not know whether to love me or hate me right now? I believe in you. Okay. Well, I wish I could say I was hyper from the sugar, honestly. It's chugging 0 calories. It's ridiculous. Anyways, be good, do good things, and subscribe, and good things will happen. Oh boy. See you tomorrow.